As a result of the searches, several members of the Alatra organization were charged with treason, creating a criminal organization and managing it, propagating a communist totalitarian regime, and justifying and denying Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine. These same individuals were accused of aiding the enemy in subversive activities and threatening the information security of their country. Fortunately, Ukraine is a democratic country where the death penalty has been abolished. Otherwise, during the wartime, all these people would have faced execution, as was the case in 1937 during the Soviet era. Can you imagine the tragedy of the situation on the one hand and the utmost cynicism and depravity of the KGB and their influence agents on the other? Innocent people being framed for execution. Even those who were not charged faced intense psychological pressure as they found themselves under the powerful influence of public opinion. The country's mainstream media outlets disseminated news of the searches conducted on Alatra participants and the charges brought against them, repeating the same KGB narratives that Alatra was allegedly a dangerous and destructive sect, engaged in subversive activities within the country, portraying its members as traitors to the homeland and collaborators with the enemy. People who found themselves in cruel social isolation became objects of contempt, even from their relatives. Some faced merciless dismissal from their jobs, leaving them literally without a means of survival in such challenging times. Just imagine what a person goes through in this situation, completely innocent, yet unable to prove their innocence. And all the while they are accused of ties with an enemy from whom they have suffered greatly, like all their fellow countrymen. An enemy who is tearing apart their country. Indeed, many Alatra participants themselves suffered during missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, and many lost their homes. Many had to survive under artillery shelling in Bucha. Some were under siege by the enemy in Mariupol, and others to this day are in the midst of active combat, where every day could be their very last day. And many Alatra volunteers have already died in this war. For many, this war has taken the lives of their loved ones and people very dear to them. And after all this, they are accused of betraying their country and their people. Can you just imagine being in their place? During times of war, when everyone around you sees you as a traitor, when even close relatives at best begin to avoid you and at worst hate you and spit in your face. Such an accusation is akin to a death sentence. Absolutely innocent people are morally crucified, and they are crucified primarily in the minds of others by the real collaborationists from the mass media and government authorities. This is how the KGB operates, harshly, cynically, absolutely unprincipled, absurdly, without any shame. This is how they destroy truth, freedom, and justice. This is how they destroy democracy. Let's return to the current situation with the Alatra volunteers in Ukraine. In this situation, KGB agents face certain difficulties. I would even say a rather insurmountable task. Before them arose the question, how to condemn innocent people without having any evidence of their guilt. Because even the most dishonest, corrupt judge or prosecutor, the most loyal KGB agent, no matter how hard they try, cannot hand down a life sentence without nothing but props as evidence. 5 months after the start of the pre-trial investigation, the same deputy who initiated the forceful stage of persecution against Alatra published a new statement on her social media page. In this statement, she sharply criticizes the investigative and judicial bodies, claiming that the case is still only at the preliminary investigation stage and that a decision to detain Alatra volunteers has not yet been made. This is not just a request to look into it, but a specific demand to imprison the innocent as soon as possible. Instead of waiting for a fair court decision, She uses her official position to openly pressure the investigative and judicial bodies. Such actions indicate the apparent bias of this official who spreads KGB narratives, thus acting not in the interest of her country. This rhetoric is typical of a collaborationist under the guise of false patriotism. The question arises, why does the USA continue to finance a country whose authorities blatantly promote undemocratic narratives and use their official position as a tool of pressure to imprison the undesired and disband the organization? Why should such actions by Ukrainian authorities be paid for out of the pockets of the American taxpayer?